Yo, my friends, welcome back to Frogboy X1 Gaming and Tech Reviews. I'm Andrew, and today we got some incredible news about AMD's Redstone and FSR4 running on RDNA 3 and potentially even RDNA 2. So first, let's talk about the Redstone thing. So I read an article talking about Redstone, and this goes back to some of the other information that I'd already been reading off of like GPU Open and stuff. You can get on there and read the stuff. You can read all the papers and read all of the, like the research and stuff that developers are doing and kind of gauge what's going on. So right now what's going on is FSR4, how we know it right now, running on the RDNA 4 GPUs on 9070 XT and 9060 XT, runs a little bit differently. It runs Int 8 on these GPUs, so definitely runs a little bit better, but they're going to be doing it on, what is it, like FP8 or something, for like RDNA 3, RDNA 2. If you watch Ancient Alien or Ancient Gameplays, you probably have already seen that he's got it up and running on Windows now. That there was pretty much the last thing. I still firmly believe that when Redstone launches later this year, it will have FSR support for RDNA 3, potentially RDNA 2. And from what I'm seeing is Redstone's going to actually work across other manufacturers' GPUs. So you'll be able to use this on Nvidia. You'll be able to use this on Intel. All it has to do is what it's doing is it's converting the machine learning into code that the shaders that uses the shaders or whatever, which is pretty cool. You will potentially not see massive performance gains. It'll kind of be like I said, like I've been saying since the freaking beginning. The PlayStation 5 Pro, it's got about 300 tops or whatever, and is what that does. With the PlayStation 5 Pro is it essentially just maintains the performance. So take your PlayStation 5 Pro. If you compare that to any of the GPUs out on the market, those are essentially like you can get like a good 1080p 60, maybe sometimes a little bit higher resolution. And then as what happens is it'll upscale from there. So PSSR is essentially upscaling from there. A little bit later this year when Redstone launches, that'll also be FSR4 will also be coming to like PlayStation 4 and stuff. So once you get to that level, it's gonna probably just maintain performance that you're already getting. And from what Ancient Gameplays is showing us is what he did was he jumped on Cyberpunk 2077. He set it to native 1440p, was running it on the 7900 XTX, and he was getting about 110 frames a second. Then he put it over onto FSR 3.1. 3.1 bumped him up into like 130 or a little bit more. And then when he put it on FSR 4, that bumped him back down to the average frame rate that he was already getting natively. So the benefits for FSR4 when it comes to your RDNA 3 and maybe even RDNA 2 cards is the fact that it's going to maintain that performance that you're already getting. And then you'll also be able to, well, obviously he tried it. I think he tried quality, he tried performance and stuff like that, but it'll basically maintain that performance or whatever, while simultaneously completely overhauling your visuals and giving you that FSR4 beauty with the better AA, better looking, pixel density, stuff like that. I do think that it's actually pretty freaking sweet, to be completely honest with you. But we need to touch on another thing too. Is RDNA's FSR4 or Redstone actually going to make AMD GPUs essentially is it still going to be special? Because now the fact that you'll be able to run these on Nvidia GPUs, you'll be able to run it on Intel GPUs, and older RDNA or older AMD technology, does that take away from the reason to buy an AMD GPU? And I gotta tell you guys, no, I don't think so. I just did a long interview with the Silicon Steak, and we kind of touched on this a little bit, but AMD GPUs right now are targeting gamers. They are still packing in that rasterization performance, as well as giving you the features on top of that. So with FSR4, and he started talking, about, well, I would rather have the features right now with Nvidia and not. Well, here's the thing, guys. With AMD, And this is probably why I love them so much, because I do love open source type stuff, because you actually get, you know, a lot more people working on it, and it's just better, you know, across the board most of the time. I mean, let's be real. I mean, if we're real, all the Nvidia stuff comes out, it's kind of like a flash in the pan. They're always moving stuff around. They're creating new stuff. They're leaving old products behind, stuff like that. So it's just like whatever. You either move forward with Nvidia every single generation, or you're missing out. And that kind of sucks. But with AMD, it's kind of like they bring the whole base with them. And it might take a little bit longer to get there, but imagine this. Say you go out and you buy your 9070 XT day one, and it's got like some of the features with it, or whatever. You know, you get it, and it keeps growing over time. But then you get to a point where 2 years later, you know, after the new generations come out, or even like a year or so later, they bring out another feature that absolutely enhances your performance, gives you better image quality, or does something more to make your card still legitimately good. And so what happens is, now instead of feeling like you've got to go buy a new GPU, now you've got these features that kind of hold you over that you didn't have before, that now you get to play around with, and now you get to experience. And I call that, instead of it being like what Nvidia does with baked in obsolescence, I call that like scalability. I call that like forward thinking. I call that future proofing when you're buying an AMD GPU. Because if you look back across the spectrum, when you start getting to like FSR4, you start getting machine learning, you start getting all of these other features that are going to enhance and enable your RDNA 3 or RDNA 2, some of these older cards from Nvidia, some of these, you know, cards from Intel. Once you start getting these features and it makes that experience better for you across the board, that's going to add not only more value to your GPUs, it's going to add more longevity to what you already have, and it's going to help you, you know, make better decisions. Like, you're not going to feel stuck, and you're not going to feel left out in the long run. You're still going to be getting features. Now, yes, of course, AMD is going to continue to build better and better hardware that's going to be more responsive. It's going to be faster. It's going to be better. It's going to have more AI tops. It's going to continue to move forward with technology and stuff. But the fact that they're willing to actually put in the work to bring that feature to everybody else, even if it's at a later date, it still gives you that sense of like, okay, man, I feel better about buying into the AMD ecosystem, because I know they're going to take care of me in the long run. I know they're going to continue to provide support a lot longer than what I'm going to get from an Nvidia product, and maybe, you know, that good competition is going to bring Nvidia along, and hopefully they start treating their customers, or the people that buy their products, a lot better as well. Now, there is talk of MFG4X coming to 40 series cards, and that would be absolutely incredible. There's no denying that. The fact that Nvidia already made it so DLSS4 works across all the RTX cards, that's an incredible thing too, and we need more of that. We need, especially right now, our GPUs are actually at a point right now where they do last longer. If you listen into the video me and Silicon Fox did the other day, we talked about that. We talked into the fact that nowadays, when you buy GPUs, they actually last longer, that you actually get more out of them. You can get significantly more time entertainment time out of these products than you ever could before, being able to actually run games longer into the future. And right now, I would say if you buy a 16 gigabyte GPU, you're in a much better position to where you will be able to continue to use that a lot longer into the next console life generation. And let's be real, video game graphics are already phenomenal, okay? I could see Xbox, you know, the new Xbox and the new PlayStation, maybe pushing the power budget up a little bit more, but still being more conservative in terms of like keeping developers building stuff. The longer that they do that, the longer that each console generation goes on, the longer the longevity is going to get out of your cards. You know, you look at people talking about how they were able to run their 1080 Ti or whatever for 10 years, and that being an awesome GPU. Well, that's because the console generation lasted so long, and that card has just enough VRAM to where it can still play a lot of these games, because we are just barely starting to get to a point where more and more games are starting to utilize ray tracing, and the ray tracing is pretty much making it so the 10 series cards are just not as good. But then you've got AMD bringing out like FSR 3.1 and frame generation that will actually run on the 10 series card. So you look at that and you're like, okay, you've got AMD features that are still pulling this card along. It's still got enough VRAM to actually run games really decently at 1080p. And then, you know, you're every so often you're starting to lose games out of the thing that are running with ray tracing that you just can't do on like a 10 series GPU. So that's why that card has lasted longer. And that, I would say that the 1080 Ti is the actual birth of that new generation where hardware starts to last longer than it ever did before. 3060 12 gig, that card's going to last a lot longer than probably the 1080 Ti. You're going to have more features with Redstone for that. You're going to have, I mean, you've already got frame generation from AMD, so you've already got these features that are going to keep these cards moving along. And you know, you go from 30, and then you get up to like a newer recent card, like the 5060 Ti. Now the 5060 Ti 16 gigabyte, this card's going to last significantly longer into the future too. I think that's why a lot of these, I think that's why AMD and Nvidia are kind of pulling back on the you know, the power, like the incremental or given like massive power increases on these cards. And that's why I think they're cutting back incrementally, because they kind of feel, and I kind of feel like we're getting to a point with our gaming where visuals don't really need to get much better. We just need better performance. And in a way to get better performance while still providing that ray tracing future for games is to invest more in the software for stuff like frame generation, for upscaling, things like that are going to continue to provide that good, clean image quality that we all love. Because I would say pretty much at this point, like we're pretty indistinguishable. You can still tell a little bit of difference between like a native render game and like an upscaled image or whatever. There's always going to be that kind of trade-off, but I think visuals are at a point right now where they're good enough to where we don't necessarily need to stress out as much. We can actually just play our games. And frame generation, whether you love it or not, okay, I don't necessarily, I'm not to a point where I'm like, oh my gosh, dude, frame generation forever. It is good enough to where I'm enjoying my experience. Okay, when I'm using a controller and I'm playing on it, it is pretty good right now. MFG 4X, AMD's, you know, frame generation, both of them are very good. And to be completely honest with you, and to be fair, I do actually still prefer AMD's frame generation over Nvidia's. I do like MFG 4X, but it is still a little bit hit and go, hit and miss when it comes to certain games. Certain games are fabulous with it. Some games are, you got to get into the settings and actually turn it down to 3 or even 2 sometimes, but it does feel snappier. It does feel better in the controls and everything like that. And that's a good thing. So as we go forward, and as we start to, as an AMD continues to start to bring these features, these software features to the forefront, I think that's going to continue to help the AMD ecosystem get a little bit better. Now, a lot of this might sound like cope, and to an extent, it is. You know, it is. Being there, rooting for your team, or rooting for something to happen, or rooting for good. Yeah, all the time that is essentially cope. But I feel better and more secure with the AMD experience than I ever have or ever will with Nvidia. Nvidia is very good at what they do, and I think people these days have very short attention spans, so they just kind of get sucked into this FOMO cycle, and they continue to, you know, beat their head against the wall. But if you look back at it, dude, there's still like 50 series cards from a couple generations still there, and I kind of feel like people I feel like people buy into Nvidia, and I kind of feel like they kind of regret that whole thing or something, but they still buy and play games on their system, you know, or they're still playing regular games and stuff. I just don't see, I mean, I know how I am as a gamer. I know how I am. And I bought in on a 60 series GPU, and look at me now, I got a 5090. I know how I am as a gamer, and you would think that a lot of those guys that bought into PC gaming at a system like that would have already blown past that and moved up. Because let's be real, like unless you are really confined by the price, you're not buying into the GPU market right there. Like you're either intimidated by it, so you're buying something that's like 3 times more expensive than your console, thinking you're going to get whatever, or you're buying out of necessity because that's what you want. But I don't think people are out there actively going for like these 60 series cards just because, you know, but they are good. They are good. If you're playing at 1080p, the 60 series cards are absolutely incredible. Hell, even the 5050 is an incredible GPU for 1080p games. If you're playing like 360 and Xbox One generation games, absolutely phenomenal. And there's thousands of games that you can actively play in those two generations on a 5050 and get a phenomenal 1080p, 1440p, or even 4K experience with that GPU. So that's incredible, man. Like I'm really excited to see that we're already that the needle's starting to move. I did predict that FSR4 would be coming to 7000 series GPUs. I can't wait for the day when it's actually, you know, supported natively from AMD. I don't really like doing the whole modding thing or anything like that, but that is available for you if you guys want to watch this. The video from Ancient Gameplays, he kind of shows you how to do it. After watching that video, I still came away like thinking, well, how do I do this? So not something that I'm going to try on the channel. There's other channels out there creating that content. I would do it, but I don't know what I'm doing, and I don't want to really give you guys any bad information on trying to figure that kind of stuff out. I'm more than happy waiting for these features to actually come natively, and then I'll try them. But until then, like as it sits right now, we're looking pretty good on the AMD side. If you're an AMD guy and you bought into AMD 7000 series, man, it's almost here. It's almost here. Just hang in there a little while longer. You're going to get it. And you're going to be happy. And gosh, man, have fun gaming, guys. If you like this content, don't forget to like and subscribe. I'll see you guys in the next one. Thanks for watching.